Dover in Kent, England is famous for its white cliffs, but there is much more to see here, especially the castle up on top of the cliffs. This is one of the most spectacular medieval fortifications in Europe, surrounded by an outer wall and a massive inner wall, all to protect that central tower that was sometimes occupied by the king. Aerial view shows those massive walls surrounding the central fortress called the Keep. As you'll see, it is so impressive outside and inside. It's a very popular attraction for students and tourists who come to enjoy the beauty, the grandeur, and learn about the dramatic history. It was not only a fortress, but a royal palace, and the interior has furnishings and artifacts that reflect that medieval time period. Dover is the second largest castle in England after Windsor, and they have done a fantastic job recreating how it would have looked back in the time of Henry II, who built this castle in the 12th century. Now we can enjoy historically accurate replica furniture with vivid colors everywhere. English Heritage is the national preservation organization that has designed this immersive theatrical experience for the visitor, with about 1,200 artifacts and items of furniture, wall hangings, pieces of pottery, and replicas that give you the feeling you have entered the medieval world, enjoying a spectacular scenario all around you. I've been in many castles throughout Europe, and this is my favorite because of its massive size, dramatic setting, and history, rugged fortified appearance, and the way they've recreated authentic furnishings and decor, bringing you back to the 12th century. There are many fascinating rooms for you to walk through and some spiral staircases to climb that will lead you up to the roof for views across the countryside and of the English Channel. Below you'll see the Dover Harbor, which has always been an important transportation center. You'll also have a fine view of the small city of Dover that we'll be walking through right now along the waterfront promenade, flower garden, beach, and white cliffs on the right side, with the castle looming over the town high on the hill above. You can walk right through the circular steel fountain that sprays a refreshing mist. Dover's town center has a small, recently created pedestrian zone, including some outdoor cafes and the old St. Mary's Church with origins in the Middle Ages. Dover's located on the southeast tip of England, 26 kilometers from Canterbury, and the town is quite small, with the castle on the hill, the white cliffs below it, the town center, and the train station a few blocks away. It takes just over 1 hour to get here from London by train, and from Canterbury, just 30 minutes. Time going from Canterbury to Dover. If coming from London, depart from St. Pancras, or from Canterbury, use the East Station. You'll arrive at Dover Priory, which is only 600 meters from the town center. It's small but quite attractive, with a variety of shops and restaurants, some outdoor markets. So this gives you another good reason to come to Dover. You've got the white cliffs, the castle, and a lovely town that we'll see more of after we visit the castle, which is our main priority. You could take a taxi or walk along Castle Street and continue by foot up the hill. In hindsight, I'd suggest you take a taxi. It's a bit of a hike to get up to the castle. You walk up the street, then up a garden path, and then finally you get to the staircase. And hopefully at the top we'll shortly be arriving at Dover Castle. Protected by a ditch, huge stone walls, and location high up on the hilltop, this castle was never conquered by foreign invaders. The outer wall featured 20 towers, along with some round battlements, providing improved visibility for archers defending the castle from attack. This wall is part of the outer bailey and has fortified gates allowing entrance to the grounds. As you walk in, it looks like you've arrived at the main castle, but no, this is the inner wall, offering another layer of protection, and rooms inside the wall to house soldiers and provide storage for weapons. Also passageways to allow defenders to move between towers without exposing themselves to attackers. Nowadays, the only invading armies are groups of English students who come here to learn about their history, and other tour groups, along with many individual travelers, attracted by the magnetic beauty of this fortified structure. They get nearly 1 million annual visitors, so to avoid the crowds, it's best to come in the off-season and not on a weekend, arriving in the morning or late afternoon. On the map, we see the inner and outer walls and the central tower called the Keep. Google Earth gives us a magnificent overview of this entire complex with the central tower and walls around it. This massive inner wall in front of the tower has several building extensions coming out from the wall that functioned as a barbican for defense purposes, where soldiers could shoot down at enemy attackers. This inner wall has 2 fortified gateways along with 14 towers, and the outer wall had 20 towers of various shapes and size. Now it's time for us to walk right through the inner wall through this gateway to reach the Great Tower, the main castle. But unlike these young lads, we're not going to rush. There's a lot to see inside the tower and at the other buildings all around it, so make sure you have at least a couple hours for your castle visit. This large central tower has only 3 floors, ground, first, and second, with a rooftop terrace. The stone buildings of this inner bailey were barracks, offices, and storage, some of them dating back to the Middle Ages, others to the 18th century. You enter the doorway and walk upstairs to reach the various levels. The first room you'll come to is the lower chapel with a typical Norman style of rounded stone arch. The stairs go up from here, bypassing the first floor and going directly to the second floor, over what had been little drawbridges protecting the building. Originally, this was the outside of the building, but it was enclosed in the 15th century. The lion banner is symbolic of the royal family. Arriving at the second floor, you'll enter some small rooms that had various functions. There was guard rooms, storage rooms, and bedchambers for some royal officials. The most spectacular room is King's Hall, with vaulted ceiling, tapestries, banners, and red curtains all around. There's an education program for students as well as adults that have guides in period costumes explaining about the history and function of this magnificent place. It happened that students were having a conversation with a royal advisor, similar to one of the various functions back in the old days when the king would hold court in this space. These students were getting some royal advice, engaging directly in the past with this dynamic role-playing environment, and developing some critical thinking skills. The setting within this authentic Great Hall with its imposing architecture and historical ambiance helps transport us back to the medieval period when the castle served as not only a fortress but a palace and royal residence. This great hall served as the primary gathering space for royal banquets, entertainment, diplomatic receptions, ceremonial events, occasional sleeping quarters, and various royal activities on those occasions when the king was here in person. From this magnificent King's Hall, we walk to the adjacent King's Chamber, which has the same size and shape and is even more decorated. Today, these rooms have been restored and brought back to life with historical accuracy using replica furnishings and textiles. You can learn a lot about the rooms from conversations with knowledgeable staff people.
This is the King's bedchamber, which was essentially a working room with a bed in it. The bed could be used for relaxation, obviously, but beds were as much status symbols as areas of comfort.
Rich tapestries adorn the walls, and adjacent rooms have replicas of medieval furniture to recreate what life was like back in the days of the monarch. These were the personal quarters, and the exhibit also features a display of replicas of the crown jewels. passing through a barrel-vaulted medieval-style chamber on our way to one of the two spiral staircases that are relatively wide with shallow steps and handrails on both sides that make it easy to walk up. There is no elevator, but these stairs reach all levels of the castle. You can make a detour along this narrow passageway, part of that internal labyrinth of the castle that enabled soldiers and servants to get around from one end to the other, with fortified windows giving us a view but enabling them to shoot out at any attackers in the old days. The spiral stairs continue on up all the way to the rooftop, where you will get a splendid view in all directions from this large fortified terrace. The green hill drops off at the white cliffs plunging down to the English Channel, with France in the distance. More walls extend out from the King's Barbican that also functioned as a prison in the Middle Ages. Arthur's Hall, built in the 13th century, was a social and administrative space later converted into barracks in the 18th century. St. Mary's Church, built 1,000 years ago, is one of the country's oldest, and the lighthouse was built by the Romans as part of their small fort in the 2nd century, making it one of the oldest lighthouses in the world. By then, the Romans had occupied England and needed the lighthouse to help guide their navy on frequent trips to the island. William the Conqueror built a small fort here after his victory in 1066, but the castle we see here today was built by Henry II in the 12th century. Henry built this as a powerful fortress and a royal palace, where his noble friends from Europe could stay on their pilgrimage to Canterbury, in veneration of St. Thomas Becket, Archbishop of Canterbury, a former friend of Henry who tragically became a political rival, so Becket was murdered on behalf of King Henry. The king then cashed in on that murder, gaining status and wealth by entertaining those noble pilgrims with lavish banquets in rooms like this guest hall, which is on the 1st floor, directly underneath the King's Hall we saw earlier on the 2nd floor. The room next to it is the guest bedchamber, also similar in size to the King's Chamber upstairs, but with the lower ceiling, as explained by castle guide Kate.
It's the guest bedchamber. It would have been used by the Queen if she were here with Henry. It would have been used by the noblemen, dukes, lords, barons. They would have slept in the guest bed, and then you would have had their knights-at-arms or their servants using these smaller beds down here. And the reason that all the beds are shorter or smaller than we're used to is because they would sleep sitting up. People used to make pilgrimages from across Europe, from across the continent, and they would cross at the shortest crossing point, which of course is Calais to Dover, and they would come to Dover. So Henry wanted something that was opulent enough and powerful enough to welcome people, whether they be noblemen or just people making pilgrimage.
So this was a hotel for the noble.
Yeah, basically, a posh B&B.
So the present structure is Henry II, as you say.
The fabric of the building is Henry II, finished in 1189.
From this 1st floor, the spiral stairs will take you down to the ground level, navigating once again this majestic stone spiral, much easier going down than walking up. This large medieval kitchen served the king, his court, and soldiers. The kitchen display shows how it looked during the reign of Henry II, featuring replica hanging meats, cooking pots, and a central fire pit, helping visitors understand medieval culinary practices and royal hospitality. This display and all of the castle was designed and organized by the national organization called English Heritage, which manages the castle and over 400 other historic sites and monuments throughout England. After you have finished exploring the Great Tower and those other nearby buildings, you've probably gotten hungry. They will take care of you with 2 places to eat at the castle. One is a cafe, the other is called the Nafi restaurant that's in a mess hall formerly used by the soldiers. Because this location, high up on the White Cliffs of Dover, formed a natural defense, Henry II decided to greatly expand the smaller castle that had been here previously. Henry II began constructing Dover Castle in the 1180s for a variety of complicated political reasons, but primarily to solidify his control over England and protect the kingdom from potential invasions. He created this deluxe royal palace that was also a fortress and symbol of his authority because he wanted regal comfort and needed protection from domestic civil war or attacks from Europe. He needed a ceremonial building in which to host and impress noble visitors coming from the continent who were primarily on pilgrimage to venerate the remains of St. Thomas Becket in nearby Canterbury, as mentioned earlier. Henry II used Dover to transform the Becket cult, which was threatening to him, into a stage-managed demonstration of his own sovereignty and power. And in this way, Henry was able to welcome French nobility to his grand palace while showing them his powerful castle would defeat any attempted attack. Those strategies worked very well for Henry, who was a brilliant leader of a medieval empire that was Europe's largest at the time, extending throughout most of France. His castle was never conquered by foreign invaders. Of course, a lot more happened after Henry, who was followed by Richard the Lionheart, and his grandson King John, who was an incompetent, despised successor who lost most of England's French territories, then was attacked by a French army led by Prince Louis in the Siege of Dover from the year 1216, when the French joined together with some English rebels to fight against the king in savage battles that took more than 1 year. By then, Henry III was king and had strengthened Dover Castle to repel the invaders. Of course, more power struggles and battles took place in the following centuries, which we don't have time for right now, except to talk briefly about the role the castle played during World War II, when it was a strategic command center most famous for directing the evacuation of Allied troops from Dunkirk in 1940. Throughout the war, it was a critical point for monitoring and defending the English Channel. It housed coastal artillery and observation posts to protect against potential German invasions. The military command center and hospital were underground in caverns carved into the White Cliffs, and some of the medieval tunnels beneath the castle were expanded and converted into the military headquarters. A visit inside these tunnels is included in your castle entry fee, but no photography is allowed. These images were provided by English Heritage. The tunnel complex is the first thing you'll see when you enter into the castle grounds. Inside, you'll see the hospital, barracks for troops, the communication center, and command posts. So you might want to do that first, although I saved it for the end of our castle visit. You'll get some more views on your way out with another look at those cruise ships in the harbor and Dover's town center, where we are heading next, after sharing a few more tips for your castle visit. When you first arrive, purchase your ticket at this booth and you can talk to the ticket person for some information and get the free map that will help you navigate the extensive castle grounds.
Good afternoon, welcome to Dover Castle. We hope you have a great visit with us today. There's lots to see up there, something for everyone.
Perfect, thank you very much. So that little booth is where you buy your tickets. When finished with your castle visit, you can walk back down the hill, which is much easier going downhill than when you climbed up. So within about 5 minutes, you are down on the main castle street and turn around and enjoy another wonderful view looking back up at the castle. It's only 800 meters from the castle to Market Square in the center of town, making it very easy to visit the castle and the White Cliffs and Dover town itself, which is a small but charming place with a cluster of shops in a pedestrian zone. You'll find outdoor produce markets in this charming mix of old and new, offering both historical attractions and some modern amenities. Strolling through the center, you'll encounter shopping streets with a variety of boutiques, cafes, and shops offering an array of local goods and international brands. There seems to be one favorite coffee shop in town, La Salle Verte, the Green Room, with sandwiches, panini, jacket potatoes, soup, a garden terrace, and of course a variety of coffee.
It's the best cafe in Dover and for miles around. All right?
Thank you.
It's a friendly, one-of-a-kind local place to sit back and relax, with quick service at the counter, then perhaps sit at the outdoor cafe in the front. Or you could stop in at the nearby pub for some grub and a pint at their outdoor terrace. A good place for some people watching. It's a town primarily for locals with a casual pace of life. A friendly resident summarized the town and offered a few travel tips.
This is the High Street, Biggin Street, and then you have the Market Square down the end. You have a couple of bars and pubs. There is some live music during the weekends. If you go down to the marina, to the new marina, you have a lovely picture of the big cliffs and the castle. Go down the pier or the marina,
Right.
You're gonna have an amazing view. It's like a postcard.
How do you like this town?
I absolutely love it.
Dover's a relatively small town with a population of about 30,000, with a city center just 800 meters wide as shown in this map, so it's easy to walk around, do a little shopping, have a meal perhaps or a drink, take a look at the White Cliffs, all within about 2 hours, plus at least 2 hours for the castle, so it's an easy half-day trip, or stretch it out to a full day if you really want to take your time. Either from London, about 1 hour away, or Canterbury, 30 minutes away. Church of St. Mary, next to Market Square, dates back to the early 12th century. The architecture of town is a mix of modern, along with Georgian and Victorian, with a small town atmosphere where people stop and chat with their neighbors. The city was developed in a human scale with low-rise buildings. Market Square is the heart of town and was recently modernized with this paving and an amazing circular steel sculpture spraying a fine water mist that draws you right in like a tunnel through the clouds. It dances in the breeze, adding a touch of whimsy and coolness to the square, creating a refreshing microclimate. It's a soothing experience to walk through it, and you don't even get wet. Little kids especially enjoy it. This shimmering new water feature opened in 2022, and already the public is very happy with it, with many praising its ability to bring people together and enhance the square's ambiance. With shops all around, and places to sit on numerous benches or outdoor cafes, and the beautiful new paving, it's a friendly place for people and animals. The Visitor Information Center and Dover Museum are right at the corner of the square, where you can pick up some information.
Well, the two most iconic things people come to Dover to see is Dover Castle and the White Cliffs of Dover. The view from the marina, if you go to the end of the pier, it's almost like you're still at sea. You get a great view of the castle with the cliffs along the side.
So you have a lot of day trippers coming down from
We
London.
do.
Mostly day trippers.
Mostly day trippers.
And cruisers.
Yeah.
The small Dover Museum is in the same building, offering a journey through the city's past, from its Roman origins to more recent maritime history. First established in 1836, it's one of the oldest museums in Kent, now housed in this modern building that opened in 1991 with state-of-the-art displays, including prehistoric archaeology and Saxon artifacts. Dover's semi-detached houses are typical of those found throughout the country, a few connected homes sharing common walls. A pedestrian underpass goes beneath a highway busy with big trucks. This will bring us down to the waterfront for a view of the White Cliffs of Dover. The path is also shared with bicycles, so beware and stand back from any groups buzzing by. Coming up on the other side, you'll see this 19th century neoclassical building called New Bridge House with government offices. Next to it is a cenotaph memorial to the fallen soldiers of the 19th century wars in India. That brings us to the seafront promenade that stretches along the coastline, with Georgian-style homes and small hotels. Reaching the Pebble Beach and pier, it looks like we're going to have some company on the walk out to the view, with a lively group of very young English students. Dover is still a busy nautical harbor for pleasure craft as well as cargo. From the harbor pier, we get a great view of the White Cliffs and the castle up above. These White Cliffs remain one of Britain's most powerful symbols, representing both natural beauty and national identity. The geological significance and sheer visual impact continue to draw visitors from around the world. The Marina Pier is a good vantage point, with benches and shelter. The English Channel Tunnel opened in 1994, but there are still many daily ferries providing service from Dover to Calais and Dunkirk. With this spectacular view of the castle, you can see how important the cliffs were to providing that natural wall of defense for Dover Castle, protecting England from foreign invasion. The cliffs rise to a height of about 110 meters, making them a dominant feature of the region, visible from great distances, all the way to France, reminding those potential invaders about this imposing natural barrier, extending for about 8 miles along the coast. This mountain of white chalk is one of the great natural wonders of the world. We frequently upload new movies, so please subscribe to our channel and click that little alarm bell so you'll be notified. And if you enjoyed the movie, how about a thumbs up? And we always welcome comments down below. Or if you have questions about the destination, make note and we'll answer them. Thanks for watching.